All right. So, like I said, my name is Megan. I'm an adult services librarian for the Aurora Public Library. Here today we have David and Lori from Medicare Solutions Network. They're going to talk to us about getting started with Medicare. This program, like I said, is being recorded. It's also currently live on Facebook. So if you want to refer back to this program afterwards, feel free to check out the Aurora Public Library's Facebook page or YouTube channel. It will be available in both places. Also check out our Facebook page for info on our upcoming programs. This Thursday, I've got another program coming up about the census, if you are curious about the 2020 census and what's going on with that. I'm going to go ahead and let David take over. I'm going to be watching the chat on Facebook and Zoom. If we get a little bit of feedback, I might have to mute the Zoom participants to avoid the feedback. But if you have a question, you can always get my attention either through the raise hand function on Zoom or by posting in the chat. Take it away, David.
Cool. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. On the other screen is my partner in life and my lovely wife. That's Lori. You'd want to know, just kind of as a ground rule, what are we? We're insurance agents, but more importantly, we're brokers. What that means is that we represent all the companies in the marketplace. You could make a mistake in the world of Medicare. When you talk to somebody, find out, make sure they're not a captive agent. That means they only sell one product from one company. We'll review here tonight one of the cornerstones of Medicare: robust competition, complete transparency. Capitalism, when it's kept on the rails, is a beautiful thing. There's a lot of companies that want your business. We represent them all, and we think that's important because you want a broad view of what's available in the marketplace. That's the end of the commercial. This isn't about sales. This is about education. What we wanted to do is try to condense what we would normally do in a library setting. We'd have people come in, and it's a little bit easier because you can read expressions and there's a back and forth of questions. Certainly, please chat in your questions or raise your hand to Megan. That's what makes this so valuable. I promise you, any question you've got, other people have, but they're nervous to ask those questions. Started teaching this Medicare 101 about 10 years ago, because we found that there were so many people coming to Medicare and they would make what we would diplomatically call less than fully informed decisions. What that means is they made mistakes. They didn't realize the spectrum of choices that they had. Maybe they did what their neighbor did or the guy at work, and they made mistakes. And those mistakes lay there very quietly, and you don't find out about them until years later when you find out that maybe you've been spending way more than you needed to spend. This is a world of what we call partial sentences, half-truths, and floating asterisks. And if you don't understand the rules of the game, you're not going to play it to its best conclusion. That's what we want to try to do here tonight. What is Medicare? What does it cover? What does it not cover? What are your options for coverage? And to start to look at what those options could be for you. If you're not familiar with this guy, you'll be feeling this way at about 64 and a half. You know it's a decision to be made, but you can't really seem to find much information. But your mailbox fills up with propaganda from the insurance companies. Your phone starts to ring off the hook. You become a very popular person because everybody wants to sign you up. But all of that stuff you're getting from the insurance companies is pretty thin on real information. It's full of happy, smiling people. But what you really want to know is the facts of the situation. And this would be a great place to start. This is the publication, gets re-released every year with updates, but this is the Bible of my industry. This is called Medicare and You. All that stuff that's in your mailbox, that's all advertising, but this is the pure source of information. It's the encyclopedia of Medicare. All the questions you have will be answered in there. You just got to find it. It's a bit of a dull read, I'll admit that. But what you'll start to find is that you have a new best friend in this world. It's called Medicare, and they're there to serve and educate and help you save money along the way if you'll take advantage of the things that they offer us. This book is tremendous, chock full of great information. It does two things incredibly well. It's the encyclopedia of knowledge. It's also a tremendous sleeping aid. If you have trouble dozing off, this will knock you down. It's a dry read. But the book, backed up by the world's easiest phone number, you should write this one down, 1-800-Medicare. Those guys are there. These are federal agents. These aren't salespeople. These are folks that are put there to help inform you, educate you, help you make smart decisions. They're there 24 hours a day, except for 6 national holidays. And just like Jake from State Farm, they're there at 2 in the morning waiting for your phone call to help you understand this world. Not only do you get the book every year, you've got the 800 number, but you also want to be aware of a great website, Medicare.gov, G-O-V. Please note the difference. If it's got gov, it's from the feds. If it has com, it's a sales site. And I know when you Google to look for information, all those people have paid to have their names up at the top of the list, but those are all sales agencies. I don't care how official they sound. If it doesn't say Medicare.gov, you're going to get a sales pitch. And you go to these websites, I'd be very careful. You give them information, and then they turn around and they sell that information to even more agents, and you get even more phone calls as time goes by. But this is a great source of information. These are all drop-down menus. You can log in and sign in for Medicare right here, get started there. You can find out what doctors accept Medicare, almost all of them. But most importantly, a good tool here that we use every year, where it says find plans. We're able to enter your prescription drugs into a calculator, and the federal government will show us every one of the 28 drug programs available this year and what the best one would be for you for the balance of 2020. Not only that, but every year on the drug programs, you guys get a do-over. It's called the annual election period. That's from October 15th to December 7th. We have the ability each year to change your drug program. And that's a beautiful thing, because if you keep your eyes on the prize here, there's the possibility to make adjustments as we age and potentially save quite a bit of money. You'd want to know, what is Medicare? Basically, it's the health insurance program for folks over 65. It can also be, people can come to Medicare under 65 if they've been declared medically disabled. That's kind of tragic circumstance, and they present a unique opportunity for coverage in this world. But the real takeaway from this slide here, you want to know, Medicare is tremendous. It's a great program, but down here at the bottom, this bottom sentence, never designed to cover 100%. You were always expected to have skin in the game. You'll be reaching into your pocket for deductibles and co-insurance, co-payments, charges that aren't covered by Medicare. And that's really where we want to start our discussion is, what does Medicare cover? What does it not cover? And what can we do to avoid that exposure? This is typically where your Medicare journey is going to start. This is your Medicare card. We recently decided to choose random generated numbers. They used to put your social security number there. That wasn't too smart. Somebody finally figured that out. But you come to Medicare, and the first point in time that you can get that coverage would be the first day of the month in which you turn 65. As long as you've worked 40 quarters and paid taxes, you have the ability to fire up this Medicare A and B. And this represents one of the first potholes that people can make mistakes in this world, because your friends and family, I know they mean you well, they're lovely people, but they're making less than fully informed decisions, and they may berate you into activating Medicare even though you have a job, you continue to work at that job, and there's more than 20 people that work at that job. That would mean that you would not need to activate Medicare. You could hold off, because what you've got is called creditable coverage. That would allow you to delay activating this Medicare. Mom and dad, I would almost guarantee if you looked at your parents' card, you'd see that they activated A and B as of the first day of the month in which they turned 65. That's what most people did. But baby boomers today are driving significant changes in this market. They're not ready to retire at 65. They like the job, they like the money, they like the social interaction, and they could choose to work past the age of 65. If you do that, typically, can't hurt you activate Part A, because A has no premium involved in it. But B does have a premium, and you'd be essentially paying a premium for something that you weren't going to use, because your coverage through work is primary creditable coverage and allows you to not activate that Medicare Part B until you're ready. It reserves your right down the road. This Medicare card typically will not show up automatically in your mailbox unless you've activated your Social Security benefit payments. If they can get, and they know they can get the Part B premium, they'll go ahead and default to assuming you want to activate Medicare as of the first day of the month in which you turn 65. You could send that card back, say thanks, but no thanks, I'm continuing to work. But if you're receiving Social Security benefit payments, they send it to you automatically. If not, we need to apply for that. You can do that right here on Medicare.gov. We see this tab right here, Get Started with Medicare. And you could do that electronically. It used to be that you could go into the offices, but obviously recently those have been closed. But in any event, if you're not receiving Social Security benefit payments, you need to tell them that you want to start this Medicare. And that's important. And what we always encourage people to understand is there are enrollment windows for Medicare. If you sign up for Medicare 3 months before your Medicare birth month, your 65th birth month, you'd go effective that month. If you wait until that month, you might have missed it. You might have thought that you could only sign up in the birth month of turning 65. You'd go effective the next month. But we have to be careful because there's timing issues on these final 3 months here where you've got to be careful. They will delay your enrollment these months. So we always tell folks it's really important. Let's be ahead of the curve on this. Let's try to be at least 60 to 90 days out from your birth month. Make sure we're making smart, fully informed decisions. You may decide to stay with your employer plan. You may decide that Medicare is a better option. Could be. You may decide to keep you and your spouse on the employer plan. But I'd encourage you to look at that spouse's coverage. It's not unusual that we would split a couple. You think that you're paying your employer $500 a month for health insurance, and any normal person would figure that's $250 on her and $250 on me, but not typically in employer coverage. They love you, you work there, you're about a third of that premium. Your spouse could be as much as 2/3 of that premium. And if that's a $500 a month premium, that means you're paying, well, $300 for her. In that world, we could do better moving her to the world of Medicare because everything in Medicare is done individually. We might get better value bringing her off or him off the coverage. Laura, got questions here?
Yep, no questions yet.
Okay. Just want to keep checking in. If you guys have questions, bring them on. That Medicare Part B, let's talk about that for a second. The base premium for Part B is $144.60 per month per person. That's the base premium for B. But this is a pretty expensive proposition, and the government is looking for ways to make it affordable for them. Well, typically how that's going to work is they're going to look to the people who make more money to pay more money for their Medicare. And that's what we're looking at here. This is called your IRMA chart. IRMA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. We love our acronyms. IRMA is based on MAGI. MAGI is your Modified Adjusted Gross Income. The computers that the government use are pretty slow moving. In 2020, we can only see your 2019 returns. Your 2019 returns actually report what you made in 2018. So it's always a 2-year look back. And what they want to know is, as a married couple filing jointly, if you made less than 174K, wonderful, you pay the 144.60. But if you made more than 174, it's an old adage with the government, the more you make, the more they take. And you can see how this starts to step up pretty quick. People don't realize that they're making financial decisions that could have a sonic boom. Adjusted gross income, that includes 401k distributions, that includes sales of stock. There's a number of things that go into that number. And people are making decisions at 63 and 64, and they don't realize the sonic boom effect that that could have on what they pay for their Medicare Part B. In that world, the government does have a heart. If we can prove that your income has dropped from these levels, maybe you killed it in 2018, you did great in 2019, but now in 2020, you've retired. There's an appeal process where we can appeal with proof that your income has dropped, and we're able to drop these brackets down. Had a client today, we had good success with that. We chopped this way down because we filed that appeal with Medicare. In that world, there's not only a bump on the Medicare Part B as in boy, but they also charge you a little bit more for the drug programs as well. So we want to be critically aware that financial decisions have ramifications further down the road. Now, this will drop off if your income drops down, and they'll catch it. But the problem with the government is they're a very slow-moving beast. It's going to take them 2 years to figure out that they overcharged you in 2020. They don't know you left your job. They're just working at what the computer tells them. So we need to be proactive in filing that appeal to drive these numbers down if we've got the ability to do that. 4 different parts of Medicare. If we were really teaching a college course, we'd be spending at least an hour on all of these, but that's not the idea. Tonight, the idea is to make you dangerous, give you enough information to move forward. A and B are going to form the foundation. Got to have A and B to do anything else. Once we've got A and B, and we understand what A and B do, we then would probably look to pick up additional coverage in support of original Medicare. That could take a drug program, certainly want to get a drug program, and it may even involve one of these Medicare Advantage programs that they're advertising on TV. And we're going to talk about everything here tonight, and what we want to try to do is unpack it very slowly. So let's start with, hopefully, Megan, you sent these out, right? Everybody got the handouts. I hope you printed them. But this is a very basic idea of the world of Medicare from the Goodyear blimp, let's put it that way, trying to keep things simple. I'm always intrigued in the world of Medicare. There's a book called Medicare for Dummies. It's like 300 pages long. I don't know how dumb it could be if it's 300 pages long, but here's the basics. From the Goodyear blimp, you want to know that you need to have Medicare A and B to do anything else. Once you've got Medicare A and B, and we're going to see it's good but not complete, you have two different pathways to potentially travel. One pathway called Original Medicare and a different pathway called Medicare Advantage. We're going to tear them all apart tonight and dig into them. But to do anything, we've got to have A and B first. So let's start with that. Medicare Part A. If there's one word for Medicare Part A, it's going to be facilities, all of the buildings that you come into contact with. That's the domain of Medicare Part A. One of my favorite things is when I hear agents tell you that Part A is free. It's not free. You paid a boatload in taxes. They just don't charge you more when you come to the party. But this Medicare Part A is going to cover us for facilities. Well, in the world of medical facilities, nothing could be more important than the hospital. And the hospital's covered, but it's not free. You've got a copayment. And then from the hospital, you might move to skilled nursing. That's rehab or step down. And that's a great benefit, but it ain't free. You got a copayment. You've got home health services where literally we'll send a medical professional right to your front door to help you get back on your feet. And then we've got hospice. And whether that was in a freestanding hospice facility or the privacy of your own home, this is all what's covered under Medicare Part A. A has no premium, but it has exposure, things that you'd be paying for if all you had was original Medicare. And we see it here. That hospital, one night, you go check into the hospital for one night, you're on the hook for $1,408 if all you have is original Medicare. Now, it's a daunting number, but understand that $1,408, that's not just for one night, that's for up to 60 nights in the hospital, and upon discharge continues to cover you for 60 days. You go in for your burst appendix, and you're in there 2 nights. First night, you owe them the $1,408. The second night's covered because you made your copayment. You're within your benefit window. It all goes well. After 2 nights, you go home. And 3 weeks later, you got nothing better to do, so you decide to have a heart attack and go back into the hospital. You'd be within your benefit window of 60 days. They wouldn't charge you the $1,408 again. But on day 61, that whole thing resets. So you could conceivably, if you put your mind to it, and all you had was original Medicare, you could get popped for that $1,408 several times in the course of a year. From the hospital, we might discharge into skilled nursing. And this is a wonderful benefit. Medicare likes it a lot because it's a lot less expensive. They still have doctors on call, but they don't have an MRI machine on every floor or an emergency room downstairs losing money hand over fist. So you might discharge into skilled nursing and understand that Medicare will cover you for the first 20 days for no charge. And then they'd cover you for an additional 80 days, but those additional 80 nights would run you to the tune of $176 per night for those additional nights. Understand, Medicare does not pay for long-term care. They don't pay for assisted living. If you can't get out of the skilled nursing facility in less than 100 days, after that, you're picking up the entire ticket. In a world, we talked about Medicare, partial sentences and half-truths and floating asterisks. We got to put an asterisk right here by this skilled nursing benefit because as good as it is, and it's a wonderful benefit, it has a trigger. You don't just get it for nothing. To get that benefit, you need to qualify. And the way you qualify is you have to be admitted overnight in the hospital for 3 nights. There's 2 ways to get into the hospital these days. One, you're admitted. There's a diagnosis. We're going to find it. We're going to fix it. But the other way that you could be in the hospital overnight these days is under what's called observational status. That means we don't exactly know what's going on, but we sure feel better with you being 45 yards from the emergency room instead of a 45-minute ambulance ride. Observational stays, you're never officially admitted. Now, Medicare will pay for the observational stay. That's not the scary part. But the part is that the observational stay does not take the 3 nights necessary to get the skilled nursing benefit. And this is where we always preach the gospel. Anytime you're doing anything medical, you got to be standing there with your card going, this is my insurance. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are my alternatives? And who's paying for this? Full disclosure, we want to make fully informed decisions. I've seen people get burned on this before. They were clearly in the hospital for 4 nights. Yeah, but 3 of those nights were observational. It didn't tick the necessary trigger to get that skilled nursing benefit. Home health services, wonderful benefit, but by definition, this is major stuff on a short-term basis. We're talking wound dressing after a major medical event, or maybe a handful of physical therapy visits. We want to get you back on your feet, get you out the door, go see doctors where it's less expensive. And again, home health services is not assisted living. They're not going to pick up the mail. They're not going to grab a gallon of milk on the way over. They're there for a very specific purpose, to service you in a short period of time to get you back on your feet. And then we have hospice, and I put down 5% on hospice, but that's almost not fair. Medicare picks up almost everything, but there can be a very small copayment for the medications you take to remain comfortable before you pass away, and also what's called respite care, where you can have people come in and spell you for a while. There's A, no premium, but clearly things that we'd be reaching into our pocket for. We call that exposure. Part B. Part B does have a premium. That base premium, $144.60 per person per month. Everything in the world of Medicare is individual. There's no family coverage. It's all done on a case-by-case basis. The reason we charge a premium for Medicare Part B, this is the lion's share of what you're going to come into contact with. A is facilities. B, one word for B, services. All the services that you're going to utilize come up under Part B. All the doctors that you see, all the specialists that you see, whether you saw them in the hospital or saw them in their office, they're billing up under Part B. There might have been an anesthesiologist that knocked you out so a surgeon could operate on you. Well, yeah, but that happened in the hospital, right? Yeah, but that hospitalization charge, that's just for the gurney and the bright lights. That's not for the people who actually worked on you. That's coming up under Medicare Part B. All of your lab work, everything from a blood test to a biopsy, all of your diagnostic testing, we call that the expensive alphabet soup. EKG, EEG, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, pap smear, all of these things are going to come up under Medicare Part B. Get out of the hospital. Maybe you need a walker or a wheelchair after your surgery, or maybe in the hospital you got a brand new knee or a pacemaker. Those would all be examples of DME, durable medical equipment, is going to bill up under Medicare Part B. Most of you would know by now that PT stands for pain and torture. No, it's actually physical therapy. Ambulance that takes us to the emergency room, everything they do there. We could use that surgical center, but not spend the night. Well, okay, in and out on the same day, that's called outpatient surgery. And that would be things like, well, I don't know, a colonoscopy, or maybe cataract surgery. For unbelievable thought process now, we've had clients that are doing total knee replacements on an outpatient basis. It's kind of scary, but it's true. But if you didn't spend the night, you don't pay the $1,408, but there's a facility charge, and that bills up under Medicare Part B. And then the last part of B is clinical RX. And these are the medications that we would consider really scary stuff. Chemotherapy, kidney dialysis, radiation treatment, heavy duty stuff. If it's administered in a doctor's office, an outpatient setting, or in the hospital, it's going to bill up under B. That's different from the medications that we're going to get from a Part D drug prescription program. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. But right now, just know that if it's the real scary stuff, Medicare's got your back, and that's going to bill up under Medicare Part B. A and B structure differently. A kind of has a pay-as-you-go. Do this, pay that. Do this, pay that. Do this, pay that. B, on the other hand, has an overall annual deductible. You must meet that deductible on all of these services one time annually. After that, Medicare is going to step in and start sharing costs with you. And that's what this looks like. The Medicare annual deductible is $198. And if you don't understand how crazy that number is, then you haven't done much in the world of medical. I mean, I'm on the Affordable Care Act. I pay $1,000 a month to carry a $7,000 deductible. I got to get through $7,000 before my insurance company shows up with dime one. Here, it's $198, and that's an amazing number. That I don't think you could find, well, you certainly couldn't find a doctor that would see you for $198. I don't think you could find a blood panel that retails for under $200. But annually, your cost this year, the deductible is $198, and then Medicare shows up and starts splitting bills with you 80-20. They pick up 80 cents on the dollar. They hold you responsible for 20 cents on the dollar. And that's pretty darn good coverage for $144.60 a month. Don't think for a moment that the government's figured out how to run this kind of healthcare for $144.60. That's just your contribution. The government is dropping north of $850 a month on each of us that are in Medicare. They ask you for the $144.60, and they make up the difference with tax dollars. That's why those taxes keep going up. But in that world, it's a tremendous level of coverage. And the good news is it's an unlimited benefit. There's no stopping it. And that's phenomenal. You get 5 knee replacements, they're going to pay for 5 knee replacements. But with the unlimited benefit comes unlimited exposure. And that means on every one of those knee replacements, every 61 days, they're going to want their 1408. And if you stay longer in skilled nursing, they're going to want their 176. Sincerely hope you never need a hospice benefit. $198 is really kind of an insult to anybody in the under 65 market who's carrying deductibles of thousands of dollars. But the one that'll grab your attention, or it should, is that 20%. 20% of everything, no stopping it, there's no limit to it. And on every one of those knee replacements, they're going to look to you for 20%. A knee replacement these days runs out somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000. So that can be pretty dramatic. And that's why most people, in addition to original Medicare, as good as it is, they're going to look to pick up additional coverage in support of Medicare. On this side of the equation with original Medicare, your insurance is Medicare. All this other stuff is standing behind it in support of it. Laura, got a question?
No questions on A and B. It's a very quiet crowd.
I'm telling you guys got to pick up the pace here. Okay, so A and B, good but not complete. We got that, right? So now what do? Well, now you look at these 2 different pathways to travel, and let's tear apart this first one called original Medicare. That's where we move Medicare into primary position. And this is a tectonic shift. This is something that people have a tough time wrapping their mind around simply because it's brand new. In this world of Medicare, you're now moving from a Blue Cross plan or a Humana plan or an Aetna plan or a Cigna plan. No, now your plan is Medicare. Your insurance is Medicare, and the network of doctors and hospitals that you can use is Medicare. And it is, bar none, the largest provider network. It's the largest PPO known to mankind. Any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States, as long as they take Medicare, you're in. It's phenomenal. Yeah, but it's not complete. You told me about all this stuff over here. Right, so what we're going to look to do is, in addition to Medicare, we're going to add on some action accessories, and let's talk about the first one that we'd want to add, something that's going to take care of that A and B exposure, and that would be a Medicare supplement. We call them supplements because they supplement what Medicare does, or if you prefer the term, we also call them Medigap plans. Same thing, 2 different terms just to confuse you. In that world, these are packages of benefits that are brought to us by secondary providers that are going to stand behind your insurance. Your insurance is Medicare. Your network is Medicare. And these secondary providers can help offset the exposure of what A and B don't cover. But what you find now is that the insurance companies are kept on a very short leash by your new best friend in the world, and that's Medicare. All the insurance companies that want your business clamoring to get their hands on, well, currently for birth year 1955, we have over 13,000 baby boomers a day turning 65. Well, that's big business, and companies are chomping at the bit to get that business. Medicare said, so that's fine. You can play if you've got the proper qualifications, but you can only play on our field called the Medicare supplement brackets. And here we go. This is where it starts to get a little bit fuzzy, because now we get to customize a program for what you want and what you need it to be. Why are there 10 different packages of benefits? Because different people have different needs. In that world, though, understand that Medicare has outlined what the base benefits are. That's just what we went over, what A covers, what B covers, but we know there's gaps. So you can decide what level of coverage you want, but understand that the companies that are fighting for your business all are playing on the same field of play. There's 10 packages, but really, if you were to dig into it, you'd see that 3 dominate the conversation. If you were to circle F and G and N, you'd have a very good cross-reference of how this world works. Packages of benefits, Medicare dictates what they are. Wait a second, so you're telling me that G from Blue Cross Blue Shield is similar to G from Mutual of Omaha? Not similar, identical. Medicare says what G is. Yeah, but wait a second. I know my doctor takes Blue Cross Blue Shield. Does my doctor take Mutual of Omaha? No, sir. Does your doctor take Medicare? Your insurance is Medicare. The supplements are secondarily backing that up. This field of play, F and G and N, a good cross-reference. That's got to be at least 90% of all supplements that are currently being sold. F has fallen out of favor. And the reason F has fallen out of favor is because it's so expensive and people finally figured that out. F was a package of benefits that was unlike anything you've ever had before in your life, unless maybe you were a member of Congress at one point in time. With F, it wipes out entirely all the exposure that Medicare A and B didn't cover. No deductible, no coinsurance, no copayments. Fabulous. Wait a second. I know how insurance companies work. They're happy to do whatever you want them to do, but the more you want them to do, the more they charge. And that was clear that there was a better alternative to F called G. Now, if you could still get it, they stopped marketing F to new enrollees. If you're turning 65 after January 1st of 2020, you can no longer get F, but don't cry in your beer. It was never a good value to begin with. If you had turned 65 before January 1st, you could still get F, and I'd show you why that isn't such a good choice. But you'll have a lot of friends that still have F. It was very popular because it was so simple to understand. And your friends will tell you, oh, you got to get F. We never see a bill. Well, the reason they never saw a bill was because of the escalating premiums that they were paying. F right now, if you could get it at 66, that's going to run you about $170 a month. You compare that to the G as in Gary. G that does almost everything. Wait. It does almost everything F does, but there's an empty box there. You're going to reach into your pocket and you're going to pay for something. That's called a deductible. F paid it, but F overcharged you for simply paying that Part B as in boy deductible. If you've got the sheet in front of you, I want you to write $198, put $198 in that box. And that's the only difference between G and F from a coverage perspective. But from a premium perspective, this G will consistently be at least $50 less per month than the F. Now, what people finally figured out, and I'm personally kind of sorry to see F go away because I used to whip up on F for years. You'd look at F and you'd say, but wait a second, it's covering everything. Yeah, but you're paying $50 more per month for it to cover everything. And the only difference is that it's paying your $198 deductible. So essentially, you're paying $600 a year to get a $198 benefit. That was never a good choice. G was always a better value. And from a consumer perspective right now, what's good for us as consumers is now that F is no longer being marketed to new enrollees because it was too top heavy and too expensive, all the companies that were doing big F business, now they've jumped into this G pool and they're all throwing really sharp elbows on the G, and the price of G has been coming down dramatically. We saw Blue Cross Blue Shield took 2 rate reductions on G just last year. AARP, which is United Healthcare, just took a big reduction in March of this year. And now it's a real competitive pool, and it's a great product, and it's a great program worth looking at. If you understand the concept of no deductible or a deductible and how that deductible drives down premiums, well, how do we drive down premiums further? Consider N as in Nancy. Nancy takes you and your cost sharing one step further. N says you're going to have that $198 deductible, and in addition to that, you agree to co-payments. You see them down here at the bottom of the page. Deductible and co-payments, $20 to see a doctor, $20 to see a specialist, $50 if you go to the emergency room. I don't mean to spend your money, but in today's terms, that's next to nothing. I've got on my Affordable Care Act plan, for me to go to the emergency room is a $1,000 copay. This is a world that is tough to wrap your mind around how good it is unless you realize the value of what you're getting. That N is going to drive premiums down even further. Figure this G, that female turning 65, somewhere around $120 a month. The N, female turning 65, somewhere around $90 a month. So she'd be saving roughly about $30 per month, and that could be justified if she's not going to the doctor a lot. Because with that $30 in savings, $30 times 12 is 360. Doctor co-payments are 20 bucks. She'd need to be going to the doctor more than 18 times a year for N to have been a bad choice. Now, we got to look at that spread, because that spread has gotten tighter and tighter as the G prices have come down. That spread is getting much tighter, and it's almost as if now G is the easier place to go. We'd show you all those numbers, happy to do it. What you want to know, though, is you've got 39 companies on this field of play, 39 companies all doing exactly the same thing with exactly the same provider network. So what's the difference? The price can vary dramatically. And more importantly, not just the price, but the quality of the company that you choose to do business with. Lori and I focus on 3 big companies. Why? Because the big companies have the best track record of minimal rate increases. Smaller companies will come to this field of play, and they know they've got to do battle with brand names that everybody's heard about. So what they'll do is they'll charge a very low teaser rate initially, and it'll look really good, because on this field of play, there's an old adage, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And most people come to this world, and if they've gotten this far with me, they've figured it out. Well, N is N, no matter who I go with. So I'm just going to go with the cheapest company, because every year I know I can change it, right? I get an open enrollment period. I get to change my supplement, right? No, you don't. Every year you get to change your drug program. Every year you can add an advantage program. But with these supplements, you have a limited window. You have 6 months before you activate B, 6 months after you activate B. That's a 1-year window. Go anywhere you want to go, any company, they got to take you. That's Medicare rules. No pre-existing conditions, no riders, no waivers, nothing. They got to take you. But eventually, that 1 year is going to wave away. And now what do? Well, you've got your company and you've got your product, and you've chosen wisely, we hope. And you'd want to know that now, outside of that initial window, now you can change these supplements every month of the year. It's fabulous. But you also want to know that now they can ask medical questions, and they do. You've got 38 out of 39 companies. If you want to change or move your business, 38 out of 39 ask you medical questions, and they will underwrite, and they'll reserve the right to say thanks, but no thanks. We don't care to choose your business. We're not going to pay for the pending knee replacement, or the fact that you're in physical therapy, or the fact that you're taking very expensive medications that indicate dramatic situations. But in that world, 38 out of 39 are going to prevent you from moving, and that makes that first point of choosing a supplement very important. We do have one company in Illinois that does not ask medical questions, and that's a great blessing for us, because well, I'm working with a gentleman right now, literally as we speak. He's in the hospital. He's got cancer. He never got a supplement, didn't think it was a big deal, and now he's realizing it's a very big deal. We've got a company, we'll be able to sign him up and put him into effect as of Friday of this week, and that's a good feeling when you can do that for somebody. The key here to these big companies is that the world of Medicare and these supplements operate on the concept of a risk pool, meaning if you do N with AARP, you go into a pool with everyone that's got N from AARP, safety in numbers. The beauty of these pools is that you can never be singled out for a rate increase. They can look at the entire overall claims of the group and raise rates based on the group. But you had a heart attack and fell off a roof and a snake bite and a car wreck all in the same year. They cannot single you out for a rate increase. They can only share your claims among everyone that's in that risk pool. The beauty of that is we've got baby boomers to the tune of 13,000 a day this year coming to Medicare. And most baby boomers at 65, they're in better shape than their parents were at 55. And they're jumping into these pools and paying premiums and sharing claims, but the sheer volume of youth and health is keeping rates down for the older and the sicker. It's a wonderful program, and it works really well as long as you got a lot of people enrolled. These smaller companies that have very small risk pools, those are the ones that scare me, because they can be very volatile. We tell our clients, you've got to figure every number we talk about here tonight, every number goes up at least 5 to 8% per year. Not always, but it's a good benchmark that you'd want to know. We work with a lot of financial planners, and they put in a straight 10% every year. Everything medical, 10%. That's pretty drastic, but their job is to make sure you don't run out of money. So they're more conservative. But these smaller companies with very few enrolled people, 2 people have a heart attack, a woman gets cancer, shared over a small risk pool, those rates can go up 14, 16, 18%. I've seen it happen, and that's why we stay with the big players. The smaller companies here, they're trying to elbow their way onto the field of play. They allure you with a sharp rate, but I'm certainly suspect of anybody who's been here for less than 5 years, and I'm certainly not going to put anybody with a financial rating of B minus. I want to make sure the companies we do business with are going to be around in 30 years to pay claims. Okay? Laura, how are we doing so far?
Still quiet on the Western Front.
You guys are killing me. So in the world of original Medicare, we've got A and B. And we've done something really good here now to back up and protect ourselves from what A and B don't cover. Then we're going to look to add a drug program. And we need a drug program. And the reason is if you don't take a drug program and it's first offered to you and you don't have creditable coverage, at that point, you are in danger of incurring a penalty and a lockout period. So in a world where you're not even taking any prescription drugs, we would recommend you look for a drug program simply to avoid penalties and avoid lockouts. The beauty of the drug programs is, again, your new best friend is Medicare, and Medicare forces all drug programs to operate the same way. Whether you did it on a standalone basis with a supplement or you did it in an Advantage program, they're all going to share similar characteristics. If you don't take a drug program and you don't have creditable coverage through your employer, then you're going to be subject to a late enrollment penalty further down the road. And I've seen people do this all the time. I'm not taking any meds. Any meds I was ever going to take are going to be generic. Why waste my money on a drug program? Well, because if you don't take it when it's first offered, they start tacking a little penalty, and that just keeps rolling along. Every month it gets a little bit bigger. And then one day you're going to find out when the doctor comes to you and says, hey, I know you've been taking generics, but let's try this new thing. It's called Xarelto. It's a blood thinner. It's a miracle, but it's $500 a month. And you found yourself without a drug program. That's pretty ugly. And then you'd want to get a drug program further down the road. And that's okay. I got your back. We can sign you up for a drug program every year during the annual election period. That's a critical period of time, October 15th through December 7th. You have the ability to get a drug program even if you never had one, or if the one you've got now is not as good as something else that's in the marketplace. And what you'll see with Medicare and that ability we talked about at Medicare.gov, we're able to see every one of the 28 drug programs and exactly how they would handle your meds this year and next year. And it's always important to look at that because maybe just capitalism has driven down prices and there's a better value for you, or maybe you added a new expensive drug and the smaller drug program you got initially, now it needs more help and you need a little bit more robust drug coverage. And we can change that every year. All of the drug programs are going to they're going to handle the drugs they offer you in a different fashion, meaning with 28 companies ostensibly doing the same thing, some have decided to go after generics and some have gone after mail order and some have gone after brands. But in this world of 28 drug programs, we opened this year at $13.20 is the least expensive drug program. It's great for generics. But then you go all the way up to where the most expensive drug program this year is $135 a month. Well, you better be in dire straits to need that kind of drug program, but it's there if you need it. Totally customizable, and we can change it through the aging process. But these 28 companies that want to do business, they've got to figure out where they're going to compete. But they all have to choose from the master formulary Medicare allows to come to market. That means Medicare is approving a certain set of drugs. We're not talking about Rogaine or Viagra. We're not talking about dietary aids or vitamins. We're talking about serious medications for serious situations. And each of the 28 drug programs has to figure out how they want to handle those drugs. Medicare utilizes a 5-tier structure for their medications. Most employer plans have a 3-tier program, but here we've gone to 5 to facilitate even more specialization and even more competition. you'd see that tier 1 are the cheapest of generics. Those are things like metformin or simvastatin or lisinopril, workhorse generics. They've been around forever. They're great and they're super cheap. And in that world, they'd have a very, very low copayment. Tier 2, those are newer generic drugs. If you took Crestor, you would have been very happy. About a year and a half ago, Crestor went generic. Now it's called rosuvastatin calcium. And the price came from over $100. Now on most drug programs, it's under $6 a month. It's going to have a higher copayment because it's a little bit more specialized. Then you get into the things that really get to be spendy. Tier 3, 4, and 5. Tier 3 drugs, these are what we say, these are drugs that are advertised on TV. So you see Crestor and Lipitor and Nexium and Lunesta, brand name drugs. If it's advertised on TV, it's going to be a higher copayment because it's a newer drug and they're still paying off the patent. If tier 3 drugs are drugs that are advertised on TV, tier 4 would be drugs advertised on TV by famous people. So when you see Phil Mickelson, he gets his little dollars from selling Enbrel, and other athletes, what was it, John McEnroe had the toenail fungus thing. Very expensive meds, higher copayments. And tier 5, you don't even want to consider. That's the grimmest of the grim. AIDS medications, anti-rejection drugs for transplants, things that are very, very spendy. Now, a critical component to the drug programs. All of the drug programs are going to have stages of coverage. They're all going to have 3 stages of coverage. And this is critically important because you've got to wrap your mind around an idea. The idea is that we want people to use generic drugs. Well, how do you do that? Well, give them a carrot or give them a stick. And in this Medicare program of Part D, all drug programs are built this way. They all have these stages of coverage. Most drug programs are going to have a deductible. The average deductible this year is $435. But that annual deductible is not something you have to pay off up front. You buy your drugs and it goes towards the deductible. For example, those tier 1 generics, it's a zero copay. Nothing goes towards the deductible. Tier 2 generics, going to be somewhere between $4 to $6 a month. That'll go towards the deductible. But where that deductible will really jump up and bite you is on that tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 medications. You look at something like Xarelto. It's a miracle blood thinner. It's a $500 drug. So that first $500, you'd wipe out the annual deductible on most plans of $435, and then you'd move into the initial stage of coverage. In the initial stage of coverage, life is pretty darn good. You're paying a monthly premium to be able to get your drugs for a copayment. Good example would be Xarelto. You pay that first one off at $435. There's a great drug program this year. It's $22.80 a month. And if you had that drug program, once you buy your first Xarelto for $500, it then comes down to $20 a month. That's a pretty sweet deal. You're paying $20 a month for a $500 drug program. Yeah, but they don't track what you're spending. What's tracked in the initial stage of coverage is the retail value of the drug that you're acquiring. So you're paying $20, but you're getting a $500 drug. Okay, well, how long does that go on for? Until you've received $4,020 worth of drugs in the initial stage. $500 drug, that means in 8 months, I've received $4,000 worth of drugs. What happens then? If you trip over that limit of $4,020 at retail value, that's what moves you into this next stage, the second stage of coverage called the coverage gap or the donut hole. And that's where things get more expensive. The idea here was to keep everybody on the generic route, because with generics, it's very tough to get to $4,000 worth of drugs in a calendar year. So the carrot was that you'd stay in the initial stage and your pricing would remain very level and very low. But the stick is that if you really want to use brand name drugs, you can use brand name drugs, but you're going to fall into the coverage gap. And when you do, your expenses go up. You are now responsible for 25% of the retail value of the drug. So let's go back. Here we're paying $20 for Xarelto, but Xarelto is a $500 drug. You fall into the coverage gap after 8 months. Now your $20 drug is, well, 25% of 500. That's $125. So they really want you to try to stay out of the coverage gap. You want to stay out of the coverage gap, but if you're taking brand name drugs, you need to be keenly aware of this number. and how it affects you as you move through the stages of coverage. We like to see that in October or November to be able to possibly make strategic moves. Maybe there's a better drug program for you for the next year that has a lower overall expense. We can see that at Medicare.gov. Maybe there are drugs that are on your formulary, things that you're taking, that you might even do better not running it through your Part D drug program. If you're not hip to goodrx.com, I suggest you check it out. Goodrx.com is simply a clearinghouse. It's a tool that we have on the web. Shows you every local pharmacy and what they would charge for your medication if you didn't even use your drug program. You may find that strategically, there could be a couple of drugs that maybe you pay for out of pocket through GoodRx that could lower your overall expenditures and help keep you below this $4,000 threshold. Some of our clients use Canada drugs. We're not shelling for anybody. All I'm saying is that there are tools in the tool chest, and we want to use them all, because if we can avoid falling into the coverage gap, we can save a small fortune. You can get out of the coverage gap. Very rare that that happens, but if what you have spent here and the value of what you've received here add up to over $6,300, you would move to the catastrophic stage of coverage, and that is that's a silver lining to a very dark cloud, or a pot of gold at the end of a really crappy rainbow. Your expenditures come way, way down, but it costs you a small fortune to get out of the coverage gap and get there. And the irony of the situation is these programs reset every year. January 1, we wipe the slate clean and we start all over again. So most people, if they even get to the coverage gap in the donut hole, they're usually only there for a few months and then everything resets. If they get to catastrophic, it's usually not till November, December of a calendar year, and then everything resets again. Done on a calendar year, but the key here is the ability to address this each year and see what's coming and find the best place for you to spend your money, okay? Laura, we still got stunned silence out there?
Still silence, but let me give a couple examples just from today. Albuterol, an inhaler. On most Medicare drug plans, that inhaler is going to run you, if you ran it through Medicare, about $75 a month to fill one inhaler. If you went to GoodRx, you could actually get that albuterol inhaler for probably between 25 to 30 bucks. So that's a good example of how you don't have to run all of your medications through your Medicare drug plan. In that instance, it makes complete sense to just go to the pharmacy and pay cash for it. Now, GoodRx provides a coupon that you would want to, either print out or show off your phone, to get that price, but it's super easy to use. I even had a client the hour before this presentation. She takes a drug for migraines. The drug plan that she was going to be enrolling in would have charged her $750. Crazy. For that drug. GoodRx, $29.
Yeah.
So
you'll see that, and Medicare, as good as it is, they're a little slow on the uptake when it comes to generic drugs. And a good example there would be Cialis and Viagra. Both of those drugs have recently gone generic, but the Medicare Part D programs have not caught up to that yet. You'll see that, well, I think Viagra now is called Tadalafil or Sildenafil, whatever the new generic name is. But you run that through your prescription drug program, it shows up at like $290 a month. You go to GoodRx, the same darn thing is 18 bucks. So this starts to become a bit confusing, and I understand that. And you start to think, oh my God, you don't have to do any of this. Just fill out the check, pay the man, and walk out the door. But that's not our story. What we're thinking about is, how do you get maximum value? You need to be a little bit engaged in the process and do a little bit of research. Doc, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are my options? Why am I taking this? If I lost 10 pounds, do I have to keep taking it? Do you have any samples? Anything that you can do to start to have that dialogue that brings down the overall cost of what you're spending. And these drug programs, to Lori's point, there's just a little bit of research that you can do, what we call a reality check. Whenever we run one of these drug programs, and usually you can see that, because if the cost before deductible is whatever, $90, and then after the deductible, it's $4, Something's fishy with that. That sounds to me like we should look at GoodRx because it's probably a drug that should be about $6 or $7. And you'll see that all the time. The key here, you've got 28 different drug programs, 28 different tiers of drugs, because one company may have your drug as a tier 3, but another may have it as a tier 2, another may not have it at all. That's what we want to look at. So each year, what you'd want to do is call 28 companies, spend about an hour on the phone with each of them, have them walk you through their, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go to Medicare.gov and we're going to go find plans. We're going to enter your meds. And after a couple of pages of information, where do you live, that kind of stuff, we're going to hit pay dirt and we're going to get a report that shows us the best drug program for you for the next year. This particular drug program is $22.80. It has a $435 deductible, but we see these stages of coverage that we were talking about, whereas there's the Eliquis and Xarelto, favorite whipping boy. They say it's worth $462. Once you've paid off that first batch at $462, it drops to $25 a month. That's a beautiful thing. But remember, they're not tracking the $25. They're tracking the retail value. It's the retail value that's going to move you towards this thing called the coverage gap, not what you spend. In that world, you see here that once he hits the coverage gap, it goes up to $115. And if he ever got out of jail, which he couldn't with this level of meds, it would drop down to $23.12 outside in the catastrophic stage of coverage. Here's Lori's point. ProAir, which is now I think called albuterol, here it's $65.97. Pay off the deductible, it's $25. Yeah, but at GoodRx, that's like $12 right now. I don't need to spend $65 for it. And $25 isn't as good as running it through GoodRx. You want to be keenly aware to make sure that you're staying with your preferred pharmacy. And that's critical because not only are there 28 drug programs that want your business, but then there's the whole world of retailers out here who want your business even worse. They want to get you in the store because brick and mortar is dying. Used to be mail order was always your best option, not so much anymore. Now mail order has been undercut by the retailers who will sell their meds at no markup whatsoever if they can just get you in the store. And why is it that the pharmacy is all the way at the back? And why is it when you give them your prescription, they say that'll be about 20, 25 minutes. They want you to wander the store and buy stuff. They're using it as a generator. But in a world where you could find your pharmacy says standard pharmacy, well, that means they'll take your money, but it doesn't mean you're getting the best value. Each of the drug programs has a strategic alliance with different retailers. We need to be keenly aware that we're using the preferred pharmacy. That means the best pharmacy for our drugs where we get the best price. And we work with people all the time. Nope, I only want to go to Walgreens. That's okay. Then we're only going to look at 8 drug programs, the 8 that feature Walgreens. But, you know, if you could walk across the street to CVS or Jewel-Osco and you saved $700 a month or a year, would that be worthwhile? And for most people, it is. Keep an open mind and know that there's a lot of great pharmacies out there for you to deal with. So one pathway called Original Medicare. A and B don't cover everything. Pick up a supplement, and that could be very extensive, like the G or less. Pick up a drug program. It wouldn't be at all unusual that mom and dad have different drug programs because they're taking different drugs. On these supplements, maybe mom likes the N, dad likes the G, or various different differentiation. But we'd like to try to keep you with the same supplement company because they offer household discounts. You might get an extra 5 or 7 or 12% off if husband and wife sign up together. No such discount on the drug programs because they know you're probably going to be turning those over every couple of years. And if mom and dad are taking different drugs, they need different drug programs. The problem, and we see it all the time, you'll find people that do everything with the same company, and that's usually a dead giveaway. They worked with a captive agent, and that guy only worked with one company and only sold one company. And you have to ask them, why did you do everything with that one company? And they'll usually tell you, because the agent said it would be easier that way. Well, it was definitely easier for the agent, but it wasn't your best option. What we want to do is take the best drug program for mom and the best drug program for dad and the best supplements and put those together in a package that represents value. And this is one pathway called Original Medicare. Phenomenal. Any doctor, any hospital, you're in Florida next week and you want to get a hip replacement, go right ahead as long as they take Medicare. Great program. And this is usually where most people are going to start because it's what mom and dad did, it's what their friends did, and it's what they're comfortable with. And initially, it's a tremendous value, and it looks reasonably priced, and yet Years go by, and that 5 to 8%, 5 to 8%, 5 to 8%. And it's not unusual. We find a lot of clients that 70, 72 seems to be a magic time where dad is sitting down with a calculator and a pen, and he's looking at the annual, expenses, and he comes across the medical. And, back in the day, it didn't seem to be that much. But honey, now between your supplement and your drug program, we're spending $250 a month. And between my supplement and my drug program, we're spending $250 a month. That's $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. And as far as I can tell from the explanation of benefits, we went to the doctor a total of 4 times last year. She went twice, he went twice. And you paid $6,000 for 4 doctor visits. Well, okay. And that sometimes is a good point in time. We may catch them and do an analysis. Maybe they didn't need the F. Maybe the G works, or the N could even make more sense if they're not going to the doctor that much. N would make a lot of sense. And I'm sorry, you've had the same drug program for 7 years and you've never looked at it? That's low-hanging fruit. We can tune this up and save them money, and that's a good feeling. But what a lot of people are starting to look at now is a different way of coverage called Medicare Advantage. This is a different idea. Strategically different. And what you want to understand is that on this side of the equation, Medicare is primary. And you always have to have Medicare A and B. That's never going to change. But in the world of an Advantage program, Medicare contracts with private insurance companies, and they send them premiums every month on behalf of you. And remember, we said we're not running Medicare for $144.60 a month. It can't be done. They're dropping north of $850 a month on each of us. In the Advantage program, they pay that money to a private insurance company, or a lot of it, put it that way. And the private insurance company now is going to step in and run the whole show. They are now the new sheriff in town, and we now dance to their tune. On this side of the equation, we've got 3 parts to our equation. Medicare primary, backed up by a supplement, and a drug program, totally customizable and fabulous. It's a custom suit designed exactly to your specifications. Here we have more of a one-size-fits-all. Here, the private insurance company is going to step in and run the show. And those are big names you've heard of before: Blue Cross, Aetna, Humana, Cigna, AARP, some other companies that you might not have heard of before. And I'm always reluctant to throw out names of smaller companies, because in this world, big usually means safety. But here, understand the rules of engagement. You're giving to get. What does that mean? Well, on an Advantage program, you give up selection. By definition, Advantage programs are more network restrictive. How do we drive down the cost of healthcare? No deductible, 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 and co-payments. Also, we can drive down the cost of healthcare by saying maybe we don't see any doctor, any hospital. Maybe we keep it a tighter, more narrow selection. Maybe we're willing to keep everything within DuPage Medical Group or Edward Elmhurst or Northwestern. By giving up selection and agreeing to co-payments, that's how these Advantage programs work. The advantage to you as a consumer is we can drive premiums down, way down, all the way down, literally to 0. You mean free? Absolutely not. There can't be free. First of all, you still got to pay your Part B premium. That never goes away. But on this side of the equation, you have co-payments for every little thing you do. Over here, think about the G. Pay the $198 and you're done. Over here, you don't pay the premium, but over here, you've got primaries, $5. A specialist is $25. An X-ray is $15. A blood panel is $10. You went to the emergency room, that was $120. You took the ambulance, that's $200. Spend a night in the hospital, it's $275. Co-payments for services, but like one of my most favorite obnoxious commercials right now, if you guys know the Liberty Mutual ostrich, can we end the Liberty Mutual ostrich? But their tagline is very powerful. It says, only pay for what you need. And that's what you're getting on an Advantage program, is you're agreeing to network restrictions and co-payments for services in exchange for which we can drive down premiums. All Advantage programs are going to be built the same way because, again, Medicare is still calling the tune, but private insurance companies are going to step in and literally replace your original Medicare. All of them are going to have restrictive networks. With Medicare primary, any doctor, any hospital. With Advantage, it's more narrow in your selection. All of them are going to have co-payments for services. But depending on the company, those co-payments can be pretty different. And that's where you really get into the analysis on Advantage programs. The beauty of the system is Medicare forces them to all lay out their benefits exactly the same way. So we can spread it out on a desk, and I can show you this one, this one, this one, and really make a comparison. One of the most important comparisons will be the network, certainly the co-payments, but the first one I always look at is the fact that all of the Advantage programs will have a maximum out-of-pocket. That could be called a firewall. We'd know it as lay people if it all went wrong. What's my worst case scenario? If you remember when we talked about original Medicare, A and B, really good, but not complete. And most importantly, unlimited benefit, but unlimited exposure. That's why we look to pick up a supplement and a drug program. But here, they will have a maximum out of pocket. And that can vary somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000, $6,000. But when you look at that couple that's going to spend $6,000 next year on their supplement and their drug program, there's an Advantage program out there. Worst case scenario is $2,750 in a calendar year. Even if it went totally wrong for both of them, they'd still spend less on an Advantage program than they would with their supplements because they're paying so much now in premiums, it can be worth looking at. And one of the most important things is to look at capped exposure. Most of the Advantage programs are going to include a drug program bound up right in the chassis. It's part of the Advantage program, and this can lead to some interesting investigation. A lot of times these Advantage programs, they're looking for business. And how do they look for business? With a sweeter package of benefits. We have one Advantage program last year that for insulins, they were charging a 0 copay. That's pretty amazing if you take insulin and you realize the value of that. And that 0 copay was good right through the coverage gap, potentially saving people thousands of dollars. But again, you got to know where to look, and you got to have somebody that can show you all the angles. So they're all available to us initially when you first come to Medicare. It's worth investigating. But they're also available to us every year during the annual election period. Remember, October 15th to December 7th. In that world, you'd have the ability to exit your supplement and drug program and get into an Advantage program and know that Medicare protects you. Medicare, your new best friend in the world, says if you were to try one of these Advantage programs, either when you're brand new or you've been in Medicare for a while, they give you a 1-year trial right. Anytime in the first year you decide you don't like the Advantage program, you could move right back to original Medicare. But that's an important time frame. In 1 year, you better have made up your mind, because after that 1-year period, you're now going to roll over into the next year of your Advantage program. And in that world, you're going to stay there till the next annual election period for a year or 2 or 3. And then maybe you do decide you want to come back over here to original Medicare. Understand the rules of engagement. After your first year trial right, you want to come back over to original Medicare, we've got to wait for the annual election period, and we can do it. Here we go. We're going to bring you back over, and we're going to put Medicare A and B back into primary position. Now it's any doctor, any hospital. We're going to get you a drug program, 28 to choose from this year, guaranteed, can't be denied, and we're going to go ahead and apply for a Medicare supplement. What do you apply? Well, yeah, because now you're past your 1-year trial right. Now, 38 out of 39 Medicare supplement companies are going to ask you medical questions, and they may decline your enrollment. The one thing that allows me to sell Advantage in Illinois is the fact that I know I've got a Medicare supplement company that I can move you back to, even if something's gone wrong. And that's a great place to be because it gives us flexibility. This is big, big business. The government is sending a lot of money to these companies, and that's why you see them advertised on TV like crazy. In this world, these companies are jockeying for position. It's viciously competitive, which is beautiful for us as consumers. And again, we can see what all of them are doing because we've got our new best friend in the world with this Medicare.gov website. I can show you every one of them. And in Cook County right now, we've got 46 Advantage programs to choose from. How do you choose? Well, the network, the out-of-pocket maximum, and then they will also, to sweeten the pot, these guys are offering a lot of additional benefits. They've got money to spare. So these Advantage programs will add sweeteners, things like dental and vision and hearing, maybe a gym club membership, the potential for an over-the-counter benefit where they give you a debit card and you can buy vitamins and aspirin and toothpaste, things of that nature. But you look at the entire package of benefits and you compare that, and you want to realize that this couple was going to spend $6,000 next year. You got to operate with me on what I call the cookie jar philosophy. They take that $6,000, they put it in a cookie jar, and now with Advantage, they only pay for the things they need. He went to the doctor 3 times this year. Well, the primary was $5 each, and the specialist was $25. And he cut his finger carving the turkey. He'll never live that down, but that was a trip to the emergency room. That was $120. And she went to the doctor twice. She had that upper respiratory thing. But still, you add up an average year of what they're taking out of the cookie jar, there can be thousands of dollars left at the backside. But you must be careful. You must understand how these work. You see the ads on TV. They scream 000. You hear free. They're not free. They're network restrictive. There's co-payments for services. And depending on the program, potentially, there could be a lot of out-of-pocket here based upon those co-payments. We do a lot of business with Medicare Advantage, but we always make sure we've got to go through it line by line, make sure you understand what you're doing. But they represent a wonderful alternative for coverage. Here's an example, a theoretical example of how one of those products work, but it lays it out. There's no premium. There's no deductible. On this particular program, you immediately go to a series of co-payments, $5 to see a primary, $40 to see a specialist. They front load the wellness. All of these Advantage programs do because they want to catch it. They want to catch it early. Nobody's making money if you go into the hospital for $250 a night. But everything that you spend here, skilled nursing is $50 a day. You've got a $13 blood panel. You've got a $18 x-ray. But everything in this particular program ran towards an out-of-pocket maximum of $3,800. This particular program also offered you the ability to go outside of network. But look at this, wait a second, out of network, we can talk about it as a benefit, but in reality, do you really want to walk in and pay 40% of the bill where here it was zero, $395 for a hospital night as opposed to $250? And most importantly, down here at the bottom, what's the exposure? Unlimited. Don't like unlimited exposure. That doesn't work for me at all. But you see the way these benefits lay out here? Virtually every program, they got to lay them out exactly the same way. And that's the fun part for Lori and me, because we have the ability to compare and contrast among these different programs. Laura, I'm sure now there's thousands of questions.
Yeah, well, talk about the dental, vision, and hearing with Medicare Advantage versus traditional Medicare.
Traditional Medicare is going to cover you for the scary stuff when it comes to vision, hearing, and your teeth, meaning glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration, golden. You're losing your balance because of Meniere's disease, or you have ringing in your ears. That's a disease. That's an injury. We can treat that. But in the world of Medicare, they're not going to cover maintenance, like cleaning your teeth. Bust up your jaw in an accident, you're fine, but cleaning your teeth, they don't do that. So if we're looking at original Medicare, we have the ability to add a vision program, standalone. We like VSP, they're really good. Add a dental program, standalone. We like Delta Dental. There's others to look at, but they're a pretty good value. But you'd add those on to your original Medicare. But again, you got to look at the value component. VSP is going to run you about $20 a month. That's $240 a year. What do you get for $240 a year? Like $150 off your frames. Yeah, but where'd the rest of the money go? Sometimes the cookie jar, self-financing can make a lot of sense. If your teeth are really good, you might consider putting $35 a month into the cookie jar. You go to your dentist, you pay cash. They'll give you a cash discount. But we can certainly look at adding on vision and dental. On the Advantage side, they've got money and they've got networks that have already been developed, and they've got their own dental programs, and it's pretty easy to put you into them. But be careful. They'll scream benefits and they won't dig very deeply into it. But some of these companies, they offer a dental benefit. Well, the dental benefit is you get dental floss every 90 days to be able to brush your teeth. That's not really dental coverage, but it is a benefit. I'll give you that. The vision component here, depending on the company, can be $300 to $500 a year. That's a pretty strong benefit. One of the companies we like a lot, hearing aid benefit, is $1,000 per ear per year. And that's what you want to look at with these additional benefits. But also understand, on that dental benefit, you're going to have to stay in their network. And what dentist takes their network of dental coverage? probably not your dentist. It's always a good idea to check with your dentist. They're not going to charge you for it. It's still going to be there. I might use their guys to clean my teeth twice a year. And if something major went wrong, I'd go back to my original dentist because I like that guy better than maybe the stranger. But in that world, those additional benefits, that's not why you buy these programs. You buy these programs based upon your network, your doctors, your lifestyle. But sometimes those sweeteners can be enticing, and they know they're adding them. And the beauty of this is it's so competitive. You know, the first guy 8 years ago added a gym club membership called Silver Sneakers, no charge, threw it right into the Advantage program. Well, the next year, virtually everybody did that because they didn't want to lose business to the guy that had Silver Sneakers. Well, then the next year, somebody decided to add dental. Now they all added dental. And then vision, they all added vision. And these benefits continue to get sweeter and sweeter. This HMO concept is typically where these programs shine. You keep everything within DuPage Medical Group, and the DuPage primary is only going to refer you to the DuPage Durham, DuPage Endo, DuPage Gastro, or Northwestern, or Edward Elmhurst. But those restrictions now are starting to fade away because these companies now have started. There's 3 of them this year. We've got a 0 premium PPO. You can go to DuPage and go to Edward and go to Advocate. In that world, if it's still a 0 premium, how did they give you so much more selection and keep the price at 0? Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. That out of pocket is much higher than it is on the HMO. The dental benefit is much thinner than it is on the HMO. If they can control you, you're going to get more benefits. And that's not a bad thing. We just want to know about that going in up front. Laura?
Yeah, a lot of on the PPO type Advantage plans, show them that slide with the illustration. Here's just an example of like a PPO Advantage plan with in-network and out-of-network benefits. You can see in the out-of-network, you're not paying a copay anymore. Now you're paying 40% of the bill. So although it's a PPO, there's still a disincentive financially to be doing a lot of out-of-network stuff. It's still to your advantage to stay within your network.
Yeah, that's the key component to an Advantage program, or the network restrictions. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, let's be clear. We've got an embarrassment of riches here in DuPage County. I mean, you've got a cancer center on every corner. You've got 4 great networks: DuPage Medical Group, Northwestern Medical Group, Edward Elmhurst Medical Group, Advocate is huge. You've got Amita just up the road. These are big players. I mean, I think we've got more MRI machines in these 4 counties than they have in all of Canada. We've got great coverage, and usually we can find a option for you that's going to get you the doctors that you want. But the beauty of the system, and I'll tip my hat now to all of you that stuck around. You have just graduated Medicare 101. You know enough now to be dangerous. You know that Medicare A and B is really good, but A and B is not complete. We'd need to add a supplement and add a drug program to make that complete. We'd know that there's another option for coverage. We might want to consider a Medicare Advantage program. But the key here is that the beauty of the system. Confusing at first, I'll give you that, because your employer came to you every year and said, here it is, take it or leave it. You didn't have to deal with any of this stuff. All those decisions your employer made, he made behind closed doors. Deductibles, coinsurance, copayment, network, wellness benefit, all those things were determined, and they brought you the finished product and said, here it is, take it or leave it. Now, you get to make those decisions. And initially, it's overwhelming. Every time you go through this, I promise you, you'll learn more and understand that the beauty of the system, it's totally customizable to whatever you want it to be, and we can change it through the aging process. The problem is that there's a learning curve, and that's what Lori and I do, is we try to help you navigate through these choppy waters and find the best value for your situation. You'd want to know the insurance companies pay us. There's never a charge to you. And the prices that you pay going through us, exactly the same if you went directly to the company. The difference is you have an advocate now, you've got an advisor now, and you've got a navigator that'll help you understand this world. Usually, Medicare 101 is followed by Medicare 102. And that's where we do a private Zoom session, or we bring in here to our offices here in Lisle and sit down with you and really start to drill into the specifics of your situation, what makes sense. A lot of people will sit through a couple of seminars and they'll figure out, you know what, I've got all this, I don't need their help, I'll do it myself. Well, first of all, there's no charge to you for us helping you. And second of all, we usually find those people 2-3 years later come back complaining that they might have made mistakes. There's too many things here that can be done incorrectly. We want to follow the right sequence and make sure that you guys get the best possible coverage. I think those are my conclusions, aren't they, Laura?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah.
No more new questions? So if you have any, specific questions to your unique situation, you can feel free to reach out to David or I, either email, or those are both our cell phone numbers. Just leave a message and we'd be more than happy to get back to you.
Sure. Appreciate you sitting through it. Appreciate you learning this. Knowledge is power. Anytime you can sit through any one of these Medicare presentations, you should. If you go to our website, you'd find that there's a video that was shot last year at the Elk Grove Village Library. Maybe sit through that. This is a tough, stilted format because there's not a lot of give and take and back and forth. But those libraries, Megan knows this too, it's a lot of fun because people get pretty feisty and they ask a lot of questions. But that video's on our website. It links. If you see on the links tab, hit that. You can see that video. That's an hour and 45, but don't worry, you can stop me. Can't stop me when we're doing the Megan, what do you got?
All right. Well, I think that was a lot of great information. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here with your contact info up on the screen.